832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, honoring Portia Simpson Miller. And in the second watch, who owes whom? Examining the cycle of care and responsibility in sports. For our social media question, we ask, how has Portia Simpson Miller's legacy impacted you? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, "It's the events in our lives that shape us, but it's our choices that define us."
Okay, good morning,
Good
Jokai.
morning.
Yes, an interesting quote there. And I was listening to some of the songs you were playing earlier, man. They go way, way back.
For sure.
Yeah, man, they sound good. The first watch will be back after this break.
This Thursday, May 8th, tune in to Have and to Hold as Dr. Colleen Beckers and co-host Pastor Napoleon Black discuss this thought-provoking topic, reasons to take time away from your spouse. They'll discuss the surprising benefits and potential pitfalls of taking a break from your partner. Is space in a marriage a sign of trouble? Or can it actually help a relationship thrive? Dr. Colleen Beckers and Pastor Napoleon Black will tackle these tough questions and more, offering wisdom, compassion, and expert advice. Don't miss this candid conversation on To Have and to Hold this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, recently, the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports announced that the main building at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security on North Street will be named the Portia Simpson Miller Building in her honor. Well, to discuss this development, we have joining us Dr. Deborah Hicklin Gordon, PMP Shadow Minister on Culture and Creative Industries, as well as Senator Lambert Brown, Opposition Senator. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Morning, and Dr. Hicklin Gordon, morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Brown.
Great. Now, lady and gentlemen, what are your opening thoughts, the announcement that was just highlighted? Beginning with you, Senator Brown.
Well, I hope that this is the first of other buildings to be named. Thankful for the Ministry of Labor, and assume that this has been already discussed with her family and have an approval. I hope that is the case. But the building that I really believe ought to bear her name, in addition to this, is the Western Region Children's Hospital that was conceptualized by her, funding by her sort. So if this is the first, I welcome it. I hope it's not the only one.
All right. Say more about that building that you hope be named in her honor.
You mean the Western
Yes.
Children and Adolescents Hospital?
Yes. Tell us more for those who may have forgotten.
All right. This is the hospital that I know the origin of it. Actually, the suggestion for it came out of my house, where my son, many years ago, said to her, Auntie Portia, why is there only one children's hospital and it's in Jamaica. She took that idea and said, no, we need to have one. We need to have one in Western Jamaica.
Mm.
And she went to the UDC, got the UDC to find the land down in Montego Bay. She went to Venezuela. She got Chavez to agree to fund it. Then that failed. She went to China. I believe Dr. Iklin was on the trip to China.
I
She
was.
went to China. She got the Chinese government agreement to fund that hospital. And that was a project left after the 2016 defeat.
Mm.
I remember her taking her Southwest Youth Parliamentary representative and speaking in Parliament about the need for a second children hospital,
Mm.
second to Boston and to Children Hospital in Kingston. So that hospital really bears a stamp, the image, and everything of the Honorable Portia Lucretia Simpson Miller. And I really believe she's entitled to have that hospital named in her honor because that's a move which says in this hospital, the parents of the sick child should be accommodated in the hospital so that that will help the healing process of the child. It was a brilliant move on her part. She's got the funding, and Jamaica owe a debt of gratitude to her for the children who are going to benefit and their family who's going to benefit from the provision of that health service down there.
Okay, thanks for that
She,
bit of history, Senator.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah,
she
Doctor
was also very
Gordon.
specific with regards to that hospital that it should not only but be children but adolescents, because she indicated that the range of childhood takes you up to that approach to adulthood, and she was very clear that young people still need the kind of care from a parent. She was literally the mother of the nation.
Hmm.
She is literally the mother of the nation, and as a result of that, that particular that particular hospital should really bear the name of the mother of our nation.
Yes, and still with you, Doctor Deborah Hicklin Gordon. Why, in your view, is Mrs. Portia Simpson Miller deserving of the honor in regards to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security building?
Well, I am sure that Senator Brown will tell you very clearly about the environment that existed when Honorable Portia Simpson at the time would have taken up her role as Minister of Labour. I'm sure he can describe it much better than I can. But what I will say, it was a period of absolute unrest. And it was Portia Simpson Miller who went in and with a crack team of industrial experts, people like, we called him Uncle Tony, the permanent secretary Tony Irons, Greshford Smith, and a couple of others. She used what was her personality and her influence and her
Mm.
acumen to change that environment around completely. It was one that was filled with acrimony. People were absolutely dissatisfied with a number of things. I remember sitting through some of the very long negotiations. We're talking about negotiations that lasted days, often
Mm.
weeks, and
Mm.
she would not go home. She would say, I am sitting here in my office, gentlemen and ladies who are in the negotiation. I am sitting here until you get a decision. Call me when you do and let us conclude it. Her food would come down, her clothes would come down. We would all have to sit with her. I remember too, I was doing a class the other day, and I invited Earl Moxham from another station, and he said to me, I also remember you, Deborah, as a young journalist there when we all had to sit through. All the journalists sat through. She would give interviews, she would have discussions. And so she literally used her political will, her political capital, to turn around the entire industrial relations circumstances of the 1990s. But I know that Senator Brown can tell you the technical details of that. There's also the other portfolios within that ministry. She was
Mm,
responsible for the senior citizens, the purchase of the senior citizens, where they now are, that center on West Kings House Road. She was responsible for things like the digitization of the NIS system. She was responsible for the Farm Work Center. That one should be named after her, actually, because it was her negotiations with the farmers in Canada and the United States that caused the
mm,
funding of that center, that gave dignity back to the farm workers when they were traveling and had to be processed. She would tell the story, and I will do it delicately, when she said that the gentlemen, when they came in for processing for the farm work, had to stand up beside each other, measuring each other. And she thought that it was that they needed to have somewhere where they could sleep and overnight and with dignity um, go through their processing, and have some form of privacy. Dignity was high, 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 high on
mm,
her agenda. And most absolutely, that labor, the approach to labor, is something that Portia Simpson Miller should absolutely be remembered for, and it needs to be brought back.
mm.
That approach to labor needs to become a best practice, and all our governance. I'm going to say one last thing, because I
Go ahead.
the notion of Portia Simpson Miller taught me something. She taught me how a glass of water can change the policy process. When she went to NIS, she saw that these people were coming in from all over the island, and they would come in, and people might have been rude and so on. And she said, no, 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 the service thing has to change. She said, coffee, tea, water available all the time.
Mm,
Somebody, grandma, coming in to process her pension, she must be able to have a cup of tea and a smile on arrival. And absolutely, a glass of water, a cup of hot water can change the policy process for our people. And I will never, ever forget that.
okay, a mouthful there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Senator Brown, Dr. Hicklin Gordon has skillfully laid the wicket for you in terms of telling us from your perspective
Yeah,
why is Mrs. Portia Simpson deserving of this
I could
honor.
speak to the industrial relations side, and I've been involved in a number of meetings with her. But I just want to add to what Dr. Icklin Gardner said about the farm work. Rev,
Hmm.
what Portia Simpson inherited when she got to that ministry, and I inherited maybe a bad word, was behind the central police station on our street was where the farm workers would have to come from all over the country before the party. There, the public bathroom, there's this open space that they have to bathe in.
Mm.
It was a subhuman condition. She saw that, and she was determined to build a new building. That's the building on East Street as you come to the stoplight before you turn to go over to Gardner House.
Tell you what, Senator, I'm so very sorry. We are up on a break. Want to hear more about this. All right.
Yes,
Hold those thoughts. We'll be right back.
I will.
Febreze. Imagine getting home after a long day and it smells so amazing that it makes you smile. Try Febreze Plugs, an air freshener that delivers continuous scent for up to 50 days when you plug it in low mode. Indulge in wonderful scents for weeks with Febreze. La 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 la.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled two dreams with one Jane Bank savings plan, I further my education and I make mama proud.
See so you can make the par, travel far, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Jamaica's gangs are like packs of rats.
Nasty.
They live in filth and try and drag us all in there with them, spreading the disease of violence and corruption everywhere.
Nasty.
But like a pack of rats, they can be eliminated with your help. If you have information on gangs, call Crime Stop on 311. This message is brought to you by Crime Stop and their marketing partners, Lime and NCB.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the first watch. We are focusing on the honor that is being bestowed upon Portia Simpson Miller in regards to the main building at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, among other things. And in so doing, we have online Senator Lambert Brown, opposition senator, and Dr. Deborah Hicklin Gordon, who's the PNP Shadow Minister on Culture and Creative Industries. Before the break, I believe that Senator Brown was telling us more about the farm work program and the input, the involvement of Portia Simpson Miller. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I mentioned taking the dignity point that Deborah raised a while ago, moving the people from nakedness into privacy of a modern office. But you don't have enough time for me to tell you more about the farm work. I want to tell you about the NIS. When Portia became Minister of Labor, there was no national insurance fund. You're throwing the money, but there's no investment of the fund.
Okay.
She took up a proposal, went to cabinet from the Minister of Finance. She refused to sign that proposal about how the fund should be advanced. Michael Manley, then Prime Minister, at the point I believe it was Michael, said to her, why has Portia not signed this cabinet submission? She said, because I want
Sonia Colleen Mona Commons,
an investment fund to be established. And Michael said, go ahead, follow what Portia said. And that investment fund is the base on which the NIS has been able to buy a lot of property, invest money, and able to pay more to pensioners today.
Yeah.
Under NIS, she established what was called the NI goal, that is National Insurance Goals, which allows elderly people on NIS to be able to get a little more in the medical field. And of course, the JADEP, which came as well, which allow for cheaper medication for elderly people.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that she did, much more than industrial relations. One of the things she fought for was to get a chair established at the University of the West Indies to do labor economics and to have a professor there in labor economics. And I know she went to bauxite companies and got them to donate money so that the University of the West Indies can produce labor economists, which they felt the country needed and which would have helped the country as it went along. Of course, she was well recognized in labor at the International Labor Organization. Oh, well, Deborah, you were there in 2007 when she spoke to the International Labor Conference in Geneva. And Rev, as such a proud Jamaican, I was there. The next speaker wasn't allowed to speak for about an hour. And normally the speaker would come in within 5 minutes after the previous speaker. Portia Simpson Miller spoke, and the delegates from all over the world crowded her, and they could not clear the conference room because of people wanting to take pictures with her, to hug her, because she has always been to the ILO conference. But as Prime Minister, the Secretary General invited her to make a big presentation, and I believe it was from Ghana or some other country that the next speaker was, and they had to delay him for hours.
Yes.
because of the impact that Portia. So she has been one who have been there, and I know she worked long hours down there. And there's a guy from I think West Kingston, he's a JLP supporter, who would always come there in the nights because one thing with Portia, her assistance to people knew no party. And I don't know if that guy's still alive, but he
Mm.
was a regular visitor there, Deborah.
Mm.
Yes, in
And
fact,
so,
she was very clear about the fact that her constituents and other Jamaican people must have access to her in her ministerial office. It was
Mm.
not about her sitting on a pedestal and doing the work of government while people couldn't reach her. In fact, in many of the offices that she worked, it made quite a stir because Jamaicans of all stripes would come and sit and wait to speak to Sister P, and she
Mm.
would see everyone. She would stay
Rev, I
there
could
till
give you an
late in
example
the
of
night.
something, David.
Hmm.
In 2006, when she became Prime Minister, she was coming from Ministry of Local Government, and she had told some youngsters down that side that they could check her anytime.
Mm.
One Friday, we were up in the conference room at Jamaica House preparing for her first budget presentation. She got a call from the security at the gate that three boys were there, but they were not properly dressed. Short pants, tear up pants, and they sent them away to come back. But when they came back, she invited them into the conference room of the office of the Prime Minister.
Mm.
And she spoke to them. One wanted to be an accountant, one wanted to be a soldier, I think one wanted to be a fireman. And she spoke to them, told them they could come there anytime they want, and the security should let them in to see her. She sent to her house. I remember that day. She sent to her house for money to give them, not government money. She sent up to her husband to say, "Send me some money," and she gave those boys. And she said, "Which I want to go and get the money?" And the one who said want to be an accountant put his
Mm.
hand up and said, "All right, use the accountant. You go and share it with them." But that's the type of person she was. She
The, the,
listened to people and she solved major disputed shipping, dispute with backside workers that lasted days. So she was a calming factor. She was very strong in her party, but she was non-partisan in her approach. And she moved well with the employers and the employees. And we could say this, Deborah, that oftentimes she goes to the farm work to look at the condition of the workers abroad as
yes.
Minister of Labor. And she'd come back and saying, "Oh, this boss man want to marry me." That's before she was married.
Yes, I remember
And
that.
this one want to marry me, that one want to marry me. In fact, I could take Taylor Swift. No, that's the Prime Minister part, where a certain Prime Minister in the region wanted to marry to her.
Oh yes.
And so she was that type who really attracted people, who looked after people, and who cared. The one little thing I'll say about Portia, that when I compare now, Portia had a door down at the Ministry of Labour that had no lock on it. And nobody could push that door.
Yes.
When I go down to the Ministry of Labour now and see the type of security and the type of facilities afforded the ministers, I am regretful that Portia wasn't given those support. So she was that type. She didn't care about the surroundings. I remember one Christmas she called me and said, "Lambert, we have a problem. The government want to announce an increase in NIS benefit, but I'm having some difficulty. I wanted to come and work with Gracefield and others." We worked over the Christmas. She was not able to announce it, and PJ was happy that she was able to announce the benefits. She constantly looked out for the NIS pensioners. And so, because NIS falls under the Ministry of Labour, it's much appropriate to name that building a building that never existed in 72.
Yes.
Because I know when that building was built by the Canadians, a gift from the Canadians. Portia deserved to be named there, but I said, don't stop there. We are looking at the Children's Hospital in Western Jamaica.
Hear you loud
That's
and
the
clear.
one.
Yes.
Very
Persons
loud.
with disabilities too. also got
Yes, there
served
be disability. Thank you.
under Portia Simpson Miller.
Hmm.
She was very strident about policy for persons with disabilities. And you know, if you think about it, Portia Simpson Miller was responsible for the people's policies for Jamaica, the elderly, persons with disabilities, people, the worker,
Hmm.
the farm worker, anything to do that extended to humanity. She made a difference in changing the ways, and not only as an outlook, but the real systems that existed within that ministry were changed to make things better, easier, and much more pleasant to activate for the people of Jamaica. And she required absolutely no less.
Yes. And as you
One thing
mentioned,
I'll say, David, just before you leave, Rev, is that the last Jamaican politician to go to prison for corruption
Yes.
was because she insisted that certain politicians who were taking certain things from the farm workers' money should pay it back, and he refused to pay it back, and that ex-minister of government ended in prison. And Deborah Icklin and I and others who have been close to Portia will tell you that our pockets felt it every time somebody came to her
Yes.
and she looking at her purse and exhausted her purse. She then turned to us and
And
said,
say, Lammy,
let
Deborah,
me,
what
let
you
me,
have in
let
your
me
purse?
come out. And we voluntarily lend her. Have you been paid back, Debbie? Because I
Oh,
have been paid back. But we are not regretting.
only in hugs and kisses.
Correct. We're not. So that's the type of person we're looking at. We've never seen somebody who she didn't want to help. I
yes.
mean, I go to Portland. I'm campaigning out there with her. I think it was Daryl Vaz versus Dabdu. She buck up on a man in a sleeping in the car, all car.
Mm.
And then she came back in the vehicle. She went into her purse and I'm saying, why are you giving so much? She said, leave it alone. You take it and go get the man.
Mm.
That's the type of person she was. And that's why she's so loved. Because she touched base with the workers. She touched base with the employers. And she sought to strike a balance. It's good that Babsy is going to name that building after her. She deserves it.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
all I will say, don't stop there.
Yes,
Yes.
we are looking for the Montego Bay Children's Hospital to be named after her.
Good. And we hear that being mentioned about 3 or 4 times on
Yeah.
this program. All right, serious thing. Want to thank you both for joining us and for giving us the history and also the reasons why you believe that this honor is so deserving. We'd like to congratulate, of course, Portia Simpson Miller upon this receiving this honor in due time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I wish her good health.
Yeah, man. Every
Yes, we
time.
do.
Okay.
I wish her good health.
Take
Thanks
care.
again. Thanks again.
Bless you. Bless you.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Open a deposit account in the JN Bank Savings Streams promotion and save monthly for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to Peru. Enter now. The time by JN Bank Savings Streams promotion is
7:30.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
Lace up and get ready for a run to remember through the lush True Juice Orchards in Buckwalk. It's the 10th annual True Juice 5K Run Walk, Sunday, June 8, 2025. Let's make this 10th anniversary bigger and better as we raise funds for the Linstead Hospital. It's going to be special with exciting surprises in store. Register now at truejuice5k.com. Entry fee only $3,000. Each participant will receive a free 5K t-shirt. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
Tune in to Love 101 FM from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Sunday, May 11, 2025, as we broadcast live from Mega Mart Portmore. Love 101 plus Mega Mart equals a mega and love-filled Mother's Day. Join us at Mega Mart Portmore for all the Mother's Day excitement, entertainment, and more. Love 101 is doing it mega with Mega Mart. Don't miss the Mega Outside broadcast Mother's Day edition. Come be a part of the Mega broadcast with Love 101 FM Sunday, May 11, 2025 at Mega Mart Portmore from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Mega Mart, best value by far.
Mama, you taught me every single good I know.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the Gleaner. Vibes Cartel lists GQ essentials why he can't live without his Bible. Also in the Gleaner update, wildcat being sought in Black River is an ocelot and not tiger cub, says JDF. In the Observer, partnership, not punishment. Wholeness says JTC bill isn't attempt to control teachers. And then we move across to Loop News. Alice returns to Crab Circle, stirring social media debate. And also, shocking testimony discredits prosecution, and it leads to acquittal, in 2017 murder case. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question. How has Portia Simpson Miller's legacy impacted you? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
This Thursday, May 8, tune in to Have and to Hold as Dr. Colleen Beckers and co-host Pastor Napoleon Black discuss this thought-provoking topic, reasons to take time away from your spouse. They'll discuss the surprising benefits and potential pitfalls of taking a break from your partner. Is space in a marriage a sign of trouble? Or can it actually help a relationship thrive? Dr. Colleen Beckers and Pastor Napoleon Black will tackle these tough questions and more, offering wisdom, compassion, and expert advice. Don't miss this candid conversation on To Have and to Hold this Thursday at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101. Get your CC Winans tickets right here at Love 101, 81 Hagley Park Road, $6,000 regular and $20,000 VIP.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jukal for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: how has Portia Simpson Miller's legacy impacted you? Jukal.
All right, so we have some responses here. We have two right now. Monica says, "I particularly remember rather when she was a Labour minister and battled for the life and accidental death insurance for security guards in the early 1990s. At that time, there had been a spate of murders of security guards on the job, which severely impacted their family members. Many had found it difficult to even bury them." Edna from Montego Bay also sent a message.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listeners and staff. Oh my God. Miss Portia Lucretia Sims Miller, a woman of strength, a woman of tolerance, a woman of resilience. That little girl from Woodall is a perfect example to us that no matter where we are, no matter who we are, we can achieve what we believe. If we can conceive it, we can achieve it. Just believe. Hats off to you, Miss Portia Sims Miller, and I'm happy that they are honoring you before you die. Glory to God. We love you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Edna.
Okay, thank you for those responses that were given. As we segue into the second watch, in a recent video recording that was allegedly done by Asafa Powell, he expressed his disappointment with the support system for Jamaican athletes. The recording also has him stating that his children will not run for Jamaica unless significant changes are made to the said system. So, what are the issues and implications arising from that video? Well, to discuss these, we have joining us Bishop Hero Steve Blair, sports enthusiast and commentator, as well as David Richards, sports science lecturer at UTech. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning. 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 Thank you for having me.
Great, good to have you both. Now, gentlemen, what are your opening comments on the aforementioned video? Beginning with you, David Richards.
All right. For me, I somewhat empathize with Asafa Powell. I know that he would have been one of the persons or one of the athletes who would have done us well and proud, giving of his all to Jamaica. And so I think he definitely has the um, the accolades and all to put forward such some would say a disturbing message or insight as it relates to what he would have achieved and the impact he would have given, and the fact that Jamaica itself did not really and truly give him back what he so deserved. Right? What I got from it in its entirety, though, it was basically surrounding the financial aspect of things more so than anything else. But as I said, I do empathize with it.
Yeah, we're going to drill down a little into that shortly. Bishop Blair, your opening comments.
Yes, let me start by saying I covered sports abroad for 20 years, on TV for 12, on radio for many years. So that is abroad, very always much more like a spectator looking at Jamaican sports, but covering it because of the Jamaicans that lived where I was. And I would say, like David Richards, that everyone would want to say that Asafa may have a point, especially since he was more than just a flag bearer, but also the person that initiated the rebirth of what we know as the pride of Jamaican athletics. However, at the same time, we should be very much aware of the involvement of government in sports. And I've been involved in sports somewhat here, being a board member of JADCO and also assisting in other areas with the Ministry of Sports. So Whereas he has that comment to make, we need to be able to look at the many things that are being done with taxpayers' money to enhance the development of sports and the work of our government along with our young people. And I'm willing to discuss, I don't have all the facts, but discuss that quite a bit is being done, and that the athletes are also doing their part because they're training, etc. But as far as where the government is concerned, much is being done. The question is about the work of the associations and the nation on a whole.
Yeah. And we're going to say more about that, I'm sure. Now, in the video, gentlemen, Asafa allegedly said, and I quote, "I ran for free my entire life. I've never gotten anything from the country." Now, gentlemen, what is your understanding of those words? Should they be interpreted literally or figuratively? Beginning with David Richards.
It's a thing I've got from what he mentioned, somewhat can read between the
You're
lines.
going in and out, David Richards. Yeah, inconsistent. We're not hearing you clearly.
Are you hearing me clear now?
Yeah, that's better. Go again, please.
Yeah, so
Start.
as I was stating before, based on what he would have mentioned and even repeated, it was really and truly about the monetary gains or assistance. And even when he would have referred to his son not competing and the fact that his wife is Ghanaian as well as Canadian, he was basically referring to the possible monetary gains for competing with for those countries. But what he mentioned is it was disheartening for a lot of persons. But at the end of the day, I do understand that athletes, they do a lot, especially with their associations, trying to foot the bill to make them become athletes.
Stick a pin right there, though, David Richards. Is it are those words that I mentioned coming from the video to be interpreted literally or figuratively? Never gotten anything from the country. How you interpret that?
I would say somewhat figuratively. Well, maybe a mixture of both. It's just that I can't.
No, but if you say never gotten anything,
yes,
you can't say both for that.
And the thing is, because of the years of hearing how Asafa would speak or deliver a particular message and all, I think some things can be misconstrued and taken literally. And that's why I said, no matter what, that part of the narrative, you can't just extract that alone. You have to look at the other parts or the content of his entire message. Because if you extract that alone, then you're going to think that he can't be serious to say that the country did not give him anything any at all.
So how does David Richards interpret that?
And so for me, understanding how Asafa speaks, I would say that he did not necessarily mean in its entirety nothing any at all. That's how I would
it's figuratively then.
Definitely.
Okay. Bishop Blair, what's your interpretation of those words? Bishop, with us? Not hearing you.
Yes,
Are
sorry
you
about that.
muted? Yes, go ahead.
So like you, I looked at that statement very directly, and I think Asafa is making a point that is important for us to look at. And that point would be
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Bishop Blair. As you know very well, we're upon a break, right? We'll be right back.
It is now 7:45 a.m.
Ready to experience 6 times more freshness in your clothes? Try Downy Scent Beads. Its fragrance is so amazing, you have to sniff it to believe it. Try Downy Scent Beads today. 6 times more freshness versus using detergent alone.
Still wondering what to get mom this Mother's Day? Then light up her life, literally. Now through to Sunday, May 11, Phosphorage brings the glow with hot deals on chandeliers, wall lamps, ceiling fixtures, and more. Brighten her space and her smile. But hurry, just like Mother's Day, these savings won't stick around. It's the Mother's Day lighting sale at the Lighting World by Phosphorage. Shop now, only at Phosphorage.
Attention, Jamaica. Fenty Beauty has arrived. Now available exclusively at Fontana Waterloo and Fontana Montego Bay. Join us in store to find your perfect foundation and skincare routine with Fenty Beauty and Fenty Skin today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and it's the second watch. We are asking who owes whom, examining the cycle of care and responsibility in sports. And in so doing, we have online Bishop Hero Steve Blair, sports enthusiast and a commentator, and David Richards, sports science lecturer at UTech. Before the break, Bishop Blair was responding to my question of how would he interpret the following words from Osafa Powell, allegedly, from the video. I ran for free my entire life. I've never gotten anything from the country. Bishop Blair, you're responding, your interpretation of it.
Well, let me just say once again, I believe Asafa would deserve anything he could get from the government. He was the first person from Jamaica to break the 100-meter world record. And that is a very big deal because that started for us something that led into the careers of others who went on to break his record. Should mention, however, that for him to say he has never received anything from the government is one thing, because
from the country,
is one thing, because UWI gave him an award, the Chancellor's Medal. He was also honored with the Diana Award and presented with a statue as a part of Jamaica 55 Legacy Program. But
when you run for Jamaica, do you get any monetary compensation? Do you get money?
No, you get money as an athlete if you place in races in the Diamond League and in other things. But from Jamaica, it's hard to say that the Jamaican country should be paying athletes. Outside of saying, well, yes, they've done well, especially the historic achievement of Asafa Powell should have been awarded. Brian Lars, it's a world record. Trinidad gives him something, and it's done in other countries. So here's a reason why he makes a statement. But on the other hand, people need to look at the fact that the Jamaican government, the Jamaican country, is very much involved in the development of sports and athletes. And millions of dollars go towards that development, including not just for coaching or for different things that are taking place at the junior level, but also in areas that I'm involved in terms of making sure that the athletes know about the why they should not be using drugs, the different things that are taking place scientifically out there. And so that's a massive investment on its own so that these youngsters can grow and develop. And when they develop, they now put themselves in a position where they can get a 50,000 US, 100,000 US for their performances in races. So there are many incentives there that comes from the job you do. I'd like to say one more thing, perhaps later on, about using these athletes later on, because they are already, once they're on that track, our ambassadors. And we've named some ambassadors. I'm not aware as to whether they get money for it, but these would be some of the best ambassadors. As we now see with a Usain Bolt, a Shelly and others for this country. And that
Yeah.
is something that we should look at going
Let
forward.
me just I'm just make sure I'm understanding you, Bishop Blair. You're saying, in essence, the response to the question that even though an athlete, an elite athlete, may not be paid per se by the country, right? But the representation on the global scale would, of course, amount to funds coming in,
Of
right?
course,
Yeah,
of course.
whether by sponsorship, you name it. That's what you're
Let,
saying,
let
right?
me, let me mention the money is there going in while they're youngsters, while they're developing. Sports on a whole needs more private sector support, and that's a big deal because the associations are most of them are in the red. Most of them don't have the money for people to be flying up and down. Um, but at the end of the day, when they excel, like an Asafa Powell, I mean, Asafa is more than just an athletic superstar. Sometimes you'd have to recognize that he gets more accolades than a Usain Bolt at times.
Yeah.
They should be indeed
Well,
given.
yes, Ron, more sub 10 than everybody else. So, yes.
Yeah, they should be given that position because
Yes.
this is a touristy country, and already we see people wanted to come and train here, um, because of them and their success.
Let me
We
ask.
see
Let me
If
ask you.
I may,
Let me ask you, Bishop Blair, and then I go back to David Richards. What generally, though, are your commendations or concerns with the treatment of athletes who represent Jamaica on a global scale?
No, well, my major concern as somebody who's been involved, I do travel as a travel agent for athletic organizations. I've covered sports since 1992, so I've been very involved. I've not been doing it as much in the last few years. The biggest need is that need for private sector, more private sector involvement for both development and also looking at how we can deal with these athletes after. The good thing that we've seen in the last few years, I
Insurance.
heard somebody mentioning Madam Portia bringing forth insurance for security guards.
Yes.
We've also seen now insurance for athletes,
Right.
and that's great. So there's some protection for them for all the work they put in because these people are doing what a Bob Marley did, not just Asafa now, hundreds of Jamaican young people in colleges, and those outside of school and coaches, etc., are making the name Jamaica a worldwide
Hearing it
brand.
loud and clear. All right, let me bring in back David Richards. Your take on that?
I, I wanted to say that we have to remember that there are some agencies that exist that basically support the development of sports overall,
Mhm.
right? For Asafa to say what he said, and that's why I said figuratively, he
Mhm.
would have meant figuratively because really and truly they would have received indirect funding or development through these associations. So, for example, the Jamaica Olympic Association, even in its recent during its recent term, in terms of Mr. Samuda being
Mhm.
the head of that entity, you would realize that they would have done a lot of assistance where athletes are concerned, or athletes' developments are concerned. So I know of last year we would have received, I believe, $250 million, or put towards $250 million to the development or to the Olympic Games. Yes, to
Mhm.
the Olympic Games. And so for that, from that 250 million, you would have certain amount going towards scholarship programs, certain amount going towards athletic training and all of that. So these different entities and the Sports Development Foundation in itself does that also. You understand, as it relates to putting funding towards the development of athletes. So the issue I believe Asafa would have had, that's why I'm always saying that it's monetary, is receiving it directly from these entities. If it's a case in which you need for that
Cash
to
in hand.
happen,
Cash in
then
hand.
yes, cash in hand. That's what
Yes.
I'm thinking.
Yes.
So the athletes assistance program. Remember during the COVID period, that program would have been developed by the ministry, MCGS. And from that, athletes were given somewhat of a stipend. You
Yeah.
understand? So it's not to say that it can't happen. The fact that you did that, that shows the athletes that there's a possibility for that to happen.
Well, you
So
know,
for
David
me,
Richard.
I
Mm.
I would expect a multi-agency approach. I would prefer that. Putting all the I was going to say sports politics aside, just come together as different entities, private entities. The GOA comes together with the J3As, the MCGS, SDF. We have all of these different entities or agencies, but I think the major issue is that there is no coalition, there is no togetherness to see to the athletes' well-being. At the end of the day, everybody operates in somewhat of a silo until there is something like a COVID-19 that we would see where a program is
Yeah.
developed, maybe collectively and so on. So
You mentioned program there, David Richards. I've noticed and I've gathered that the responses on social media to the video, um, a lot of it is vitriolic. Persons have really really expressed their disgust. What's your response, beginning with you if you have the time, to those who argue that Asafa's concern, right, if the video is genuine, is not unique to Jamaica, and that there are other Jamaican elite athletes who have prospered in spite of the same concerns in the same system? What's your response to that,
my
David?
response would be that remember, athlete development doesn't start with elite athletes, and I don't want us to forget the amateur side of it.
Mhm.
Because these upcoming athletes, they do need the assistance, and the assistance that they would usually get, it comes from the organizations that they're associated with, the clubs, right? But then no, the clubs themselves are going to need some form of funding in order for them to capitalize on the human capital that are presented to them, right? So don't bash him for saying what he said.
Mhm.
The fact that there is a focus on the elite athletes is where I personally have a problem. So athletes development part, and I do give kudos to Tia and
What's
the
that?
twins, Clayton twins.
Oh, you mean Tia? Oh, Tia. Clean. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
give kudos to them because they would have shown now the amateurs of what they should do really and truly in order for them to see the best future for themselves.
Hearing
You
you loud and
understand?
clear, David.
Yeah.
I'm going to give Bishop Richard, Bishop Blair, the final word quickly.
No, I am thankful to be here with David. My final word is this is a good reason why athletes need to understand that after you've done your 5, 10, 15 years, life goes on. The education you get now and the opportunities, whether high school and thereafter in college in the States or wherever, is extremely important so that you're not ending up fully depending on somebody else. You look at that George Foreman and others after their great success, many of them went bankrupt. Your education is
Well said.
majorly important going
Well
forward.
said. Got to leave it there. Got to leave it there. Interesting discussion, insightful, informative. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a safe and productive day.
Take care, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. Of course, this has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. Join Mr. Stokely Marshall next week as he continues to look at the issues of the day. I'm Dylan Toussaint, giving a shout out to the Bishop and members of the New Foundation Christian Ministries as I return you to Love in the Morning.